All right, let's talk coffee. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on what it really takes to make that perfect cup. We're going to break down the whole journey from the bean all the way to that beautiful final sip. It's something we've all thought about, right? You have a cup of coffee and it's fine, but then you have another one and it's wow. What's the secret? Is it the expensive machine? Some magic beans? Well, it's kind of all of the above, and today we're going to figure out that exact formula.
You might be surprised to hear this, but the secret isn't some long, complicated checklist. Nope, it all really boils down to just 4 essential factors. That's it, just 4.
So what are they? Let's dive right in. This first section is all about those 4 secrets of espresso. We're going to see how these key pieces come together to make that magic happen. And here they are. Think of it like a perfect recipe with 4 key ingredients: the water, the beans themselves, the machine you use, and you, the individual. Each one of these is just as important as the others. Get one wrong, and the whole thing kind of falls apart.
Okay, this one always blows my mind. We obsess over finding the perfect beans, right? But get this, a whopping 98% of your coffee is just water. Let that sink in. So using fresh, clean, filtered water isn't just a nice idea, it is absolutely, fundamentally the most important starting point.
Next up, the star of the show, the coffee beans. You know, the flavor you get in your cup is basically the bean's entire life story. It starts with the variety, like are we talking Arabica or Robusta? Then where it grew, how it was processed, and of course, how dark it was roasted. Every single one of these things changes the final taste. Now, the grind. This is such a delicate balancing act, and it's where a lot of us go wrong. If you grind the beans too fine, the water can barely push through, just slowly drips, and that gives you a really bitter, over-extracted taste. But if you go too coarse, the water just rushes right through, and you end up with a weak, watery, and pretty sad cup of coffee. Getting that grind just right is everything.
You know, modern coffee machines are incredibly smart. They don't just blast hot water through coffee grounds anymore. They use all these clever brewing methods for different drinks. For instance, something called the pulse extraction process, or PEP, uses these little short bursts of water to squeeze out way more aroma, especially for small drinks like an espresso. It's all about using technology to get the absolute best flavor for whatever style of coffee you're making. Okay, so we've got the fundamentals covered. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty details. These are the pro tips, the little things that will take your coffee from just good to truly fantastic. First up, let's talk about the crema. You know that beautiful golden brown foam on top of a fresh espresso? Well, it's not just for looks. It's this amazing mix of the coffee's oils, proteins, and sugars. It's a sign of a perfectly brewed shot, and more importantly, it's where a huge amount of the coffee's incredible aroma is trapped. So what if your crema is looking a little weak or disappearing way too fast? Well, here are the 3 usual suspects. First, old beans. They lose the CO2 that's needed to create that foam. Second, a dirty cup. Even a tiny bit of grease will make that crema collapse instantly. And here's a fun fact. The type of bean matters. Robusta beans naturally create a much thicker, longer-lasting crema than Arabica. All right, time for a big myth buster. A lot of us think that you need high-fat milk to get that rich, velvety foam for a cappuccino, right? Well, that's actually wrong. The real secret isn't the fat at all, it's the protein. The protein is what creates that beautiful, stable microfoam. That's why you can still get amazing foam from milks with less fat as long as the protein content is there. And finally, after all that work, you don't want to mess it up in the last few seconds. So let's talk about serving. 3 simple steps. 1, always warm your cup. A cold cup will just shock the coffee and kill the temperature. 2, serve it with a small glass of water to cleanse your palate first. And 3, if you take sugar, use loose sugar, because sugar cubes can splash and destroy that beautiful foam you just made. So now we know how to brew a great espresso and how to make perfect foam. Let's take a quick tour of the coffee menu and clear up some of the confusion around the most popular drinks out there. This is probably the biggest mix-up in the coffee world. A latte macchiato literally means stained milk. So you start with the steamed milk and then pour the espresso into it, which creates those cool, distinct layers. A cappuccino is the opposite. The espresso goes in first, and then it's topped with milk foam, so the flavors are much more blended together from the start.
Now for two smaller but very different drinks. A macchiato is an espresso that's just stained with a tiny dollop of milk foam. That's it. A cortado, which comes from the Spanish word for to cut, is different. Here, you cut the espresso with a roughly equal amount of steamed milk, which makes it much smoother and less intense.
And then we have the modern classic, the flat white. This one came out of Australia, and the technique is really unique. The espresso is in the cup first, and then the steamed milk is poured in a special way so that the super thin layer of microfoam mixes in with the coffee's crema. The whole point is to create this incredibly silky, uniform texture. Okay, we've totally nailed the science and the taste, so now it's time for a little bit of art. Let's talk about adding that impressive final touch to your drinks.
And listen, you do not have to be a world champion barista to make your coffee look beautiful. This is a super simple trick that anybody can do. Just make your cappuccino, use a little bottle of chocolate sauce to draw a few dots or lines on the foam, and then grab a toothpick or a skewer and just drag it through your shapes. You can create these elegant leaves and patterns in seconds. It's so easy.
I just love this quote. I feel like it perfectly captures the passion and the intensity of what a truly great espresso is supposed to be. It's not just a drink, it's a whole experience. So there you have it. The 4 secrets, the pro tips, the classic recipes. We've covered the science and we've dabbled in the art. Now that you have all the knowledge, really, the only question left is, what are you going to create next?